So today we're going to be breaking down the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and we're talking about how Russian troops have entered into Ukraine and if this is an invasion or not. This is going to be different from my normal videos, but it's still going to be around about the same kind of thing. If you guys enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. That really helps me out. And let's go ahead and get started. So as of February 21st, Russian troops have entered into Ukraine. Vladimir Putin, which is the president of Russia, as you all probably know, has stated that these troops are peacemaking troops. Russian troops have entered into, excuse me for pronouncing these horribly, but Donetsk and Luhansk. Now, I know the pronunciation was horrible, but these are two breakaway states in Ukraine, and they're about right here. Now, this is definitely not a perfect drawing of them. If you want a better drawing, then just look them up, but these are like the two breakaway states. These have been in active conflict for years now, and Russia has been backing them up, and Vladimir Putin sent his troops into this region in order to hold it down and to keep peace. Now, we all know there's around 200,000, that might be an overestimate, or so Russian troops all around Ukraine. So all the way from Belarus down over, and then now these troops are moving into these regions. So now down over here. Then of course we have troops in Crimea. We can also talk about Transnistria, although I don't know if they're really using it. And of course Russia also has troops over here in Georgia and these areas. So overall Ukraine and I guess Georgia are pretty screwed if Russia were to invade them. We're not talking about Georgia, so let's just go ahead and do that. And I'm pretty sure they wouldn't use this area over here. So let's just focus on the border of Ukraine. Now these so-called republics were I guess recognized by Russia yesterday. These areas are known as the Donetsk People's Republic and then the Luhansk People's Republic. Very communist sounding, although I don't think they will get any foreign recognition by any country other than countries that are like supported by Russia. Belarus would be one of them. So there's one of two ways that this can escalate from here. Option one, which is the most likely scenario, Russia invades the rest of Ukraine. And then number two, Russia does not invade Ukraine, although holds down these two areas, and eventually we have some sort of recognition of these two countries. Now, I myself like to try to keep my politics out of the video, but I don't recognize these two countries. Same kind of with Crimea, although that's debatable. It's more debatable than these two. And now let's talk about the main point of this video. Is this an invasion? This really depends on how you recognize these two states. A majority of people in the world do not recognize them, although some do. So if you do recognize them, this is not an invasion. This is just moving troops into another country. And then if you do not recognize them, this is an invasion of Ukraine, and I myself consider it an invasion of Ukraine. And I'm pretty sure the U.S. government also considers it an invasion of Ukraine, although they've kind of changed that around a little bit. If you want to learn more about the U.S.'s stance on this, obviously they don't support the recognition of these two areas. And a lot of other Western European countries have also stated that this is not an official thing. But if you want to look more onto that, there's articles online and you can learn all about it. But with this, once again, is this an invasion of Ukraine? It's opinionated, but in most people's definition, yes, this is an invasion of Ukraine. So should the West unleash their sanctions on Russia? That is a pretty big deal right now. The U.S. has already released limited sanctions on Russia. So this has to do with them moving into these two areas, which the U.S. responded with sanctions, and I'm pretty sure the UK did as well, and I think Germany might have as well, which is pretty surprising because I'm pretty sure Germany said they won't do anything, but now they are, so that's pretty good. So with all these sanctions coming to Russia, these are minor sanctions. These are not sanctions that are going to cripple Russia's economy. It won't have much effect, although it will have some effect. But will the West go ahead and unleash the other sanctions? Because the other sanctions are going to be crippling. They are not going to be good sanctions. And it's not going to be good for Russia if they receive these. Now, that once again plays back to the whole, do you recognize these two areas as countries? And do you consider this an invasion of Ukraine? Joe Biden has said that if a single Russian soldier crosses the border into Ukraine, then it is considered an invasion. But these two areas have kind of been under Russian control since 2014, which was 8 years ago. So is it really considered an invasion? I don't know. It's very hard to kind of break it down in terminology. Technically, it's not an invasion because these areas have been under Russian control for years, but at the same time, they are still areas of Ukraine, so it is an invasion. Now let's talk about the effects of this whole scenario. Obviously, gas prices. Russia is a main contributor of gas to Europe and as well as the entire world. And with these sanctions coming in, and then of course Russian gas with the West, we've already been seeing a lot of these Nord pipelines being shut down simply because Russia did what they did. I'm pretty sure Germany shut down one of their pipelines already or canceled the building of it. And with this, gas prices are going to be affected all over the world. So prices in Europe, right now it's like $5 a gallon, I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, Europeans. That might go up. And then over in America, it's different in every state. California has $4 to $5 a gallon. That might go up. And then the East Coast, I know, is like in the $3 range. The South is always a lot cheaper because it's a lot more poor, less people. $2 range, that might go up to $3. And then, of course, the markets, also stocks are going down. So this is all led back to Russia invading Ukraine. It's a big global event that is going to affect the global economy. And this is only them invading this part of Ukraine. Now, of course, the gas prices thing, that might be over-exaggerated. But gas prices will definitely go up if they invade the rest of Ukraine. But for now, if they just do what they do, they'll only go up a little bit. So let's talk about the actual invasion of Ukraine. Now, I myself firmly believe that Russia will in fact move troops over into Ukraine and invade the country. I do not know how Ukraine will fight back. I know that they will probably not win. And I doubt that any other country in the world will be able to help them because we're talking about Russia here. Now, the Russian government, I don't know why they would be doing this. I don't know what their goals are. Obviously, to unite all Russians. But we all know Adolf, tried to do that in World War II, and that didn't end well for him. So we'll see what happens in the coming years. But once again, let's go ahead and say that they go through with an invasion of Ukraine. So Russia is now colored in red, Ukraine in blue, and then the two occupied regions are going to be this pink color. Now, I actually haven't researched or heard anything about where Ukraine's troops are. I'm assuming they're doing something that is kind of similar to Russia and stationing them all around like close to the border, but not near it. So this is where like the Russian troops are. And of course we have them over here in Donetsk and Luhansk. And I'm assuming Ukrainian troops are obviously in Kiev and obviously like Odessa and other major cities. But I'm also, maybe not in Chernobyl, but I think they're probably in eastern Ukraine, not, sitting over here in the west, although they might be on the border of Belarus. So with war being declared, obviously these two troops would meet up on the front line and then, they would start fighting. It is very clear, in my opinion, once again, I'm going to state this one more time, very clear that Russia will invade Ukraine in the next coming days, hours, weeks. I don't know. They might start when this video is published. They're mobilizing. It's very clear that, you don't move tanks to a border of a country without, reason. You can't just say you're using military exercises as a reason. Having tanks this close to a country and then, a lot of them is a cause for concern. So knowing what they'll do, they'll eventually start to invade Ukraine. First, they'll push out from the regions that are under their control, and then of course up from Crimea, although they might be a very kind of hard place to invade up from because it's very lakey on this border here. So they'll push up from this area over here, which is the only region that connects, and then they'd easily push around and obviously get all this area. I'm assuming they'd make landings along the Black Sea, so they'd take over this area pretty easily. And overall, we would see a pretty solid front line over here in eastern Ukraine. Now, if you guys wanted a more in-depth video of how this will play out, I actually have posted a mapping scenario video. It's like a 14-second video. It's not like up to speed, but it's a pretty good in-depth detail of how Russia will take over Ukraine. I included geography, cities, all that good stuff, power, encirclements, all of that is included in that video. It's a very in-depth invasion. So if you want to check that out, it's called Russia versus Ukraine War Simulation. It's not an old video. Anyway, back to this. Russian troops push in from the east very quickly over here. They would also most likely push in from the north, and then eventually they would start to push in through Belarus. So with this, we have Kiev, which is located about right here. That's not exactly where it is, but it's a pretty good estimate. I'm sure Russia would focus most of its troops in taking over these eastern regions until eventually they reach the Dnieper River, which splits Ukraine in half, and it's also right on the border of Kiev. So with this, I'm pretty sure Russia would face some geography challenges here. Obviously, crossing a river isn't the easiest thing to do. So once again, going back to that video I made, they would most likely make a landing over here near Odessa. And with that, they'd be able to take over southern Ukraine and in turn have a front line that is pushing across the river. With this, we might see an encirclement made and then, of course, the fall of this area. And then we would have Russian troops pushing up. Ukrainian forces might fight, but eventually Kiev would be taken. And with this, Ukraine would be captured. So the unfortunate but realistic ending is Ukraine does not win this war. And now we can talk about a possible peace treaty with this country. Now, I am not sure of Russia's intentions in this area. Like I've said, they'd recognize these two areas as, I guess, independent, but I'm curious as to see if they would make more independent areas along Ukraine. So like maybe something that looks like the HRE over here. Hopefully not. But I think the most realistic scenario is that they take over the area that is east of the Dnieper River. So maybe something like this. And then, of course, they would take over Donetsk and Luhansk. So with this, Ukraine looks something like this. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they took over a big portion, if not all, of southern Ukraine. Possibly, we could see Belarus getting something out of it. And then finally, we have Ukraine being turned into a puppet. So theoretically, this is what Russia would do to Ukraine. Now, full annexation is possible, but also a very bad idea for Russia. And I'm actually going to go ahead and change up the border just a little bit down here. So now we have Ukraine that looks like this. Russia does not want NATO. They do not like NATO. They're scared of NATO and they don't want to border NATO. They also don't want Ukraine in NATO. And I think they will invade Ukraine in order to set up a kind of buffer zone between it and NATO. So if Russia were to annex all of Ukraine, they would then border a lot more NATO countries such as Romania, Hungary, Slovakia, and Poland. So after this, what happens next? We could possibly see Belarus join Russia. Now this isn't going to take place right after. This is going to take place in the coming years. But Belarus and Russia are already very close. They're both dictatorships, and I don't see what's keeping them from each other. So why not just make a union and make it official? Now, Russia's next big kind of country that they would want to take over is, of course, Georgia. Now, we all know that Russia already recognizes South Ossetia and then Abkhazia. So these areas are pretty much under Russian control. And then from here, I wouldn't be surprised if they just blitzed through and then took over the country. And I'm pretty sure we'd see full annexation over here. Georgia isn't a very big country, unlike Ukraine. So having a small border with Turkey isn't that big of a deal. And then, of course, Russia would also border its ally Armenia. So overall, this does seem very likely for Russia to do in the near future. Most people seeing this video will be alive when all these events take place, and if they take place. And yeah, so this is what I think will happen in the next coming days, hours, weeks, whatever it is. So yeah, that's what might be coming. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'm recording this video kind of late and out of schedule. And my reason for that is I dislocated my knee. Don't ask how I did it. Don't want to talk about it. It hurt, and I have to brace it for 3 weeks. So that's going to suck, but it happens. Once again, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.